Hi, and welcome to day 3, our LinkedIn Live update from the Deloitte booth here at Mobile World Congress. I'm joined by Paul Lee, as always, and Girija Krishnamurthy, our global technology leader. Girija, technology, that feels like devices. That feels like smartphones and PCs and wearables. Here we are at probably the world's largest show for those kinds of devices. What are you seeing here at Mobile World Congress that you are thrilled by?
Duncan, glad we started on devices because what a change from last year when I was at MWC. It's I was looking for the form factor changes, and there are many of those. And of course, there's more foldables, there's more trifolds, there's more, wearables, and all kinds of changes with devices. But the one thing that really struck me, and this was with your whether it's with your PCs or with the devices, is the infusion of agents into really every personal device or work-oriented device in the workplace. And so the agents have really transformed and turned every device into more of a companion than just being another device, another tool, another app on your phone or on your laptop. And I thought that was a really big distinguishing factor.
So let's drill down on that a little bit further. Last year, we had AI chips inside all kinds of personal computers. And bluntly, those have not sold well. Those have not been a thing. You're saying the integration of the OS plus the semiconductor unleashes more value?
That's such a great point on value, Duncan, because that's exactly right. And I think we've moved from the phase of AI being a nice to have and as a part of a device and being able to sell on the basis of just the fact that AI is in the device to how is it really adding value to what I do on a day-to-day basis. So I saw that as a pretty marked differentiator this year, especially in this booth of a well-known laptop maker, the infusion of AI into their device, and for it to be not just sold as an AI on device computer, but for it to be sold as an agent that's able to transform your day-to-day work and able to schedule tasks for you, able to be your travel companion, able to be your collaborator, able to be your content writer, able to be your planner. So there's a myriad of use cases, if you will, that the device is not now able to do with the infusion of AI into it. And so the value, back to your point on value, the value that a customer is able to get from it, whether it's an enterprise customer or a consumer, I think has changed and moved the needle substantially this year with the infusion of AI and these agents into the devices.
Awesome. Paul, here it is, day 3, Mobile World Congress. I think this is where you and I make skeptical comments about smart glasses, normally at this point, or do you want to take a look at another device?
Sure. I mean, smart glasses, we get lots of questions about them. And the potential upside of smart glasses is it generates a lot more uplink traffic. So if you've got these devices which are capturing lots of video and uploading it for processing somewhere for interpretation, that could be a lot of traffic. I stress could be. Now let's see, is it going to be? So there are dozens of different models I have seen. There are 2 that have actually been working. So there are many challenges as to why that's been happening. Part of it is just the connectivity, the pairing between a smartphone and glasses is really hard here. It's hostile. And you could argue, well, a train station is hostile, but it's unusually hard over here because of the number of devices. But let's say you solve for that. You've still got the issue of, for example, how much text can you see? Fundamentally, you can't see very much. A sentence doesn't fit into a screen. So one of the things that has been shown earlier is you're giving a presentation. This can be your auto cue. It can't be, realistically, unless you just stare bottom right of the lens. And the other thing is, so one application I tried was summarize a menu. I'm thinking, why do I want to summarize a menu? I want it listed. And the first time round, of the 4 items, it missed out one. And I mentioned that. And so it filled it in and hallucinated an item that wasn't on the menu. So I would say these are products in progress. And I was chatting to a analyst who measures the quantity of sales, and they are still modest. And I say that out of modesty.
Extremely modest. So
Yep.
hallucinating smart glasses would be a bad thing. I'm taking from this. Girija and Paul, one of the big news items from last week is not just last week, it's been a while. Memory prices are a lot higher. They're going to double yet again. The analyst firms are suggesting this is going to have an impact on device sales. What are your thoughts? And Girija, I think you and I chatted specifically around supply chain. What does this matter to a CIO or a CTO if you one memory costs more and maybe you can't even get it?
It's a great point, and it's turned out to be a bigger choke point than many had anticipated. And CIOs and chief supply chain officers, especially to your point, Duncan, are scrambling to solve for this issue. And I think what it fundamentally points to, and while all the devices stuff and the smart glasses and all of that are really fun, but one fundamental issue that I think the memory problem and other such challenges or choke points point to is the infrastructure is such an important component and such an important thing for organizations to solve for. The way you think about the infrastructure, memory is one part of it, but really have to think about how is all of this intelligence going to be powered? Where is it going to reside? And cloud used to be the only place where you could do it. That's no longer the place. So I think memory is a part of, not to go off on a tangent on all of the infrastructure pieces, but I think it's an important component of one of many choke blocks, power being another one, memory being a key one, where supply chain officers and really the C-suite and the board are thinking about, do we have the right strategy where we can price things right, where we have thought about all of our partners that we can procure the memory from? Have we really thought about the entire infrastructure and the tech stack, so there are no additional choke points further down the lane that get in the way of our AI progress? So I think that's the problem that this whole topic has highlighted to most
Great.
of us.
Paul?
So so if you look at, say, devices, then the cost of memory is going to be a lot more significant an issue for all devices which are entry-level devices. Because as a share of bill of materials, you notice it more, it hurts more. But what I expect is going to happen in the short term is things like the second-hand market, the refurb market, is going to have a great year. Also, what's going to happen is supply is going to go up, and we're going to get what you often refer to the whipsaw effect. So probably in a couple of years' time, supply will go up of RAM, price will moderate, and demand for smartphones will ratchet up. So if you look at it on a 5-year basis, will we notice it? Will we notice it?
Yeah. One thing I did notice from this analyst forecast is even though they were looking for sales, unit sales to fall, for example, for computers by 10, 15, 20%, because the prices are higher because of the memory, the dollar value of the market is in fact basically flat. So that was cool. Now, Girija, in a panel earlier today, you were discussing one of these scenario-based blog posts out there about AI. AI is going to have a very disruptive effect. Other people have much more positive effects. I'm just curious about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting topic. Obviously, went viral on social media, and it's really interesting to see Duncan and Paul, these extreme dystopian views, and then the extreme utopian views of what AI, the impact that AI is going to have on all of us. And I think that view, while a very interesting read, and I would recommend it to everybody, I think it's a very useful tool for scenario planning. I think it's always important. I think if I had to predict it, I would say we would probably land somewhere in the middle. I don't think we're going to, that dystopian view is truly very dystopian. I don't think AI is going to destroy, everything that's happening in the world and all the jobs and all of that. But there are jobs that are going to be disrupted. We're already seeing a lot of automation of the software that's happening. And so we are seeing things evolve. But I do think it's a useful scenario planning tool to prepare for the worst and have that as one of your scenarios. But I think where we'll end up is somewhere in the middle, with AI helping us with a lot of automations. We talked about agents and what that's doing, to devices and all of that. I think we'll find organizations become a lot more productive. So there's going to be, I think, a really great benefit from AI, but obviously there's going to be disruption as a result of that as well.
Paul, you and I have not actually. Paul and I talk about, we send 400 emails a day to each other. You and I haven't talked about this. I'm dying to know, what do you think about these kinds of scenarios?
I think these are useful, but also damaging, because what they don't include is a probability. We focus way too much on what's possible. The hard thing is going, that's possible, but what's the probability? If it is 3%, let's spend little time on it. And the thing about any technology, as we often talk about, it can be used productively and unproductively. Smartphones being a case in point, or even connectivity. So in London now, I have connectivity on the entirety of my underground journey. Are people using this to do their emails, to be productive? Only if doom scrolling is productive.
Well, I don't know. I was sending emails from the metro earlier today. However, I've been, as some of you can probably hear, I've been battling a cold all week, so I'm glad I'm not the only thing going viral this week. Now, robots. Girija, we love this topic. There's also been some real changes in the last year or two. What are you seeing on the robotics front?
Robots, another one, when I compare to where things were last year to where they are this year, I think a pretty massive shift from the automation. I think where they were last year was the automation of simple tasks. So they were doing one thing and automating it and doing that really well. Now it's this transition into humanoids, and we're seeing them all over the floor here at MWC. And that transition is an interesting one, because now we're talking about physical meets digital. So the real manifestation of the physical AI era is, I think, through humanoids and robotics. And again, some really interesting, implications, again, from a supply chain standpoint, and having, there are factories in some parts of the world where it's predicted to be entirely humanoid factories because of these advances in technology. But the fact that robots are moving from doing simple tasks to being able to act and behave and predict like humans in a human-like environment is fascinating and frankly a step change from where we were last year.
Paul?
I think where robots will thrive, or all machines, is where they're optimized for what they're good at, which tends to be strength or speed, or a combination of the two. Dexterity is something that humans are uniquely good at. And that includes mental dexterity, but also the ability to hold one of those cuts is extremely hard to replicate in a machine. And the idea that you can learn how to do that from a YouTube video, I think is probably low probability. And I think it will take decades before the ability to replicate human dexterity is delivered. And even then, humans may be faster.
So on that note, I'm looking at the time. I want to thank Paul, Lee. I want to thank Girija Krishnamurthy. I would say join us for day 4, but there is no day 4 broadcast. So I'm going to say, please join us next year in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress, sometime in March. I think it's March 1st. See you there, and it's been fun. Thanks both.
Thank you.